Welcome back to another weekly analysis video. This analysis is for the week of October 19th, 2025. As always, we'll start with a weekly review of last week's price action and then move on into the analysis. I want to draw your attention into this area in here. Last week I said that I wanted to see lower prices into here and see how we reacted at 24,057 and into its relative stop run area in here. However, price did not even reach that area. It actually gapped up on the opening. And if you recall, I had said if price had gotten through this area, we would likely see higher prices going back up into this most recent all-time high in here. Now, price consolidated for the week for the most part. However, it is showing bullish signatures, and we're going to talk more about that as we go into the weekly analysis for next week. But the important thing to note is price did not even attempt to come back down into this level in here, in its relative stop run area in here. It just gapped up through this area in here, and notice how it's used this area in here, which is the relative stop run area of this level here, 24,057. It has used that as support. It has not gone below it at all. It's tried to several times, and based on how we closed on Friday, it looks like it may want to proceed higher now, but we'll get more into that as we go into the analysis for next week. Keep in mind the government, the U.S. government, is still shut down, so we still have a little bit of a uncertainty as we move into next week. However, the technicals are saying that it looks like it may want to move higher. If it doesn't move higher, I would err on the side of perhaps consolidating even more, but we'll talk more about that as we go into the weekly analysis for next week. Alright, on to the hourly chart now. We have the open here, Sunday, 1800, October 12th. And I want to draw your attention, let me move this vertical line here. I want to draw your attention to this gap that was formed on Sunday's open. Okay? Now, price was here on Friday's close on October 10th. I made the analysis on Saturday, and I had said that if price were to gap through here or trade through here, that we would see higher prices. And it may, or rather the probability is lower significantly for prices to go lower. Okay, and that's exactly what happened here. So we gapped up. Notice how price comes into that gap here, fills part of it in there. Okay, repels away from it, and then it comes back down one more time, just scraping below the low in here, refusing to go below this area in here, and we since repelled away from that, and we've closed here for the week. Okay, so it's important to note how price is refusing to go below that. Now, admittedly, I don't like how there's equal lows in here, but based on the circumstances of the present market conditions, I do see that it may want to reach higher. Okay, and again, we'll discuss that for the analysis for next week, but the important thing to note here is price traded through this gap, traded through this area in here, creating a gap, and then using that gap as support in here, coming to it and repelling away, coming into it again, repelling away. Couldn't get through this area in here, which again is the relative stop run area of the 24,057 level. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Alright, now on to our 15-minute chart here. A more refined view compared to that of the hourly chart. I've already drawn your attention to the gap that was created here in the beginning of the week with the gap opening on Sunday. How price came back into that gap here, repelled away, came back into it once more, repelled away again, and closed for the week at this level here. But the main key level that it was really working around was the 24,786 level. Notice how it's meandered around that. Now recall that this level is part of a stop run range relative to the 26,244 level. The stop run range is 24,786 to 25,515. Okay. Notice how it's worked the lower part of that, and it's repelled away from it now. And because we've had a nice close for the week here, going into next week, I want to see price target these highs. If it does not do that, it will consolidate. I do not want to see it come back down into here again. So we are now going to move into the weekly analysis for the week of October 19th, 2025. Alright, back on our daily chart here for the weekly analysis for the week of October 19th, 2025. So again, to recap, last week I wanted to see initially lower prices into here and to see how we reacted in this area. Price didn't even get there, just gapped up on the open, and we have since used that area as support, which is what I said we would do. If we were to trade above this area in price, it would want to seek higher prices. Now, it has not sought after higher prices as of yet. It has consolidated, okay? So as of now, while I am still bullish, and I do believe that this will move higher and create a new all-time high, we have to wait for price to get out of this little rut, this consolidation, okay? So that's what I'm waiting for. Now, the time parameters that I look at and that I haven't shared yet on this channel indicate to me that we should start seeing higher prices. We should start breaking out of this consolidation. And the direction I want to see price break out of is to the upside, creating a new all-time high, taking out this range that was created on Friday, October 10th. That is what I'd like to see. Now, what voids that idea? If we break down below this area in price, it'll then target the lower part of this candle here and target that low and into 24,057. I don't want to see that. I'm bullish. I want to see higher prices. So if someone asked me and pointed a gun to my head and said, tell me where price is going, where's it going to break out of this consolidation, I'm saying to the upside. And that's what I'm sticking to until proven wrong. As I've said before in previous weeks and over the course of the last 2 or 3 months, I'm going to ride this bullish wave until it kicks me off my surfboard. Okay? I don't call tops in these types of long-term moves. Every time you try to do that with a long-term sustained move, you're going to get hurt. And so I've learned not to do that. So, with that being said, bullish prices is what we're going to be looking for going into next week, keeping in mind that we are in a consolidation and that we're waiting for the breakout. Getting down into the hourly chart now, we can see a more refined view of that consolidation that I've spoken about in previous clips. Price again opened, we gapped up through this area, move that vertical line, gapped up through this area, use it as support, and have just consolidated on the lower part of this stop run area relative to the 26,244 level. Okay, so again, since we've consolidated all this week, or rather last week, we're moving into a time parameter in which we could see expansion. Okay, so I'm looking for expansion to the upside going into next week. And while we may not get it initially, I do believe as the week progresses we will see that, if not in the beginning of the week. So we just have to see how price opens and navigate the conditions accordingly based on what we get. So again, we're in a consolidation profile right now, waiting for it to move out of that consolidation. And my bias is to the upside, creating a new all-time high, and eventually getting into 26,244, which is my main objective for the year. So that's what we'll be looking for going into next week. Again, I am bullish. And lastly, we have the 15-minute chart here, a more refined view compared to that of the hourly chart. We see this consolidation a little bit more clearly. Again, how it meandered around the 24,786 level, which is the lower portion of this stop run area, from here to there, and that's relative to this level here, 26,244. Again, notice the gap created on the open, came back down into here, found support, didn't quite close it in all the way, came back down once more in here, and then repelled away. We're approaching the middle of this range in here, so ideally we need to aggressively get through this range, the middle portion of it. Target 25,515 would be the next objective. And if we get a runner, maybe reach up into 26,244, or at least the middle of this range in here. And that's what I'd like to see. So I believe it'll be an interesting week next week. We still have the U.S. government that is still shut down, so a lot of things aren't being carried out as they usually would within a government setting for the United States. So next week will be interesting, in my opinion, and we shall find out. So that's going to conclude the weekly analysis for the week of October 19th, 2025. As always, take care, and God bless.